Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started. Hey, welcome back to Screenplay Junkie, episode number 16. Drew Hellmich here as usual, here with Matt and Bryan. What's going on, guys?
Hey, hey.
Hey. Yeah. Getting webby with this one.
Today we're going to be talking about the unproduced 1993 Spider-Man screenplay that has Hollywood heavyweight James Cameron's names attached to it.
I like how you call him a Hollywood heavyweight. He kind of sounds like a professional
I love
wrestler.
that alliteration.
We are getting webby with this one.
However, before we get to that, who's your guys' favorite Spider-Man?
Like actor to play Spider-Man.
Yeah, to ever play Spider-Man, yep.
Bryan, who do you got?
I'm just going to go with my boy Tobey. You know, he always pulls it off real well.
The original, Tobey Maguire?
You're not a big Andrew Garfield guy?
I think I'm going to go with Andrew Garfield. I mean, he skateboards.
He's got the hair.
He's got the hair. Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's 35. I mean, all the kids that look like they're 35 in high school are the cool kids. Everyone knows that. Everybody knows that.
Dude, even the best part when it's, I can't think of his name. He plays the electrical man, Bobby Fox.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, yep.
Bobby Fox.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx with, hey, that's 3 X's at the end of that Fox, too. Don't forget it.
Yeah, we're completely joking. Amazing Spider-Man is not my favorite at all.
I do like Tobey Maguire. He's my favorite Spider-Man.
Tom Holland's pretty good in the new ones.
Oh, I do like him as well.
He's good. I'd go Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and then Andrew Garfield at the bottom.
Oh, I
Let's
agree.
be real.
Totally. Absolutely agree with that.
I think the Spider-Man through the web universe is a little better than Andrew Garfield too.
Have you seen that or no?
No, I haven't seen it.
I've heard it's awesome.
That's the animated one?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that just won an Oscar.
We have to watch that one of these days. But for now, we can just stick to reading Spider-Man scripts like the one we just did.
Right, and just to reiterate, the screenplay that we read never got made.
And with James Cameron's name on it.
We do have a story to tell you guys about why this movie wasn't made, and we'll get to that eventually. But as you'll hear us talk about this script, it's kind of obvious why it wasn't made.
Yeah. I know
so true.
In the last episode, we expressed that we were really excited to read this one, as one would be. I mean, Spider-Man's a really cool superhero.
And with James Cameron's name attached to it,
Yeah.
Right.
it adds even more excitement.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this was just disappointing.
It was disappointing.
Disappointing, let down, and
Yeah.
just lacked the depth that it needed. It was just like, this is Spider-Man? Like, come on, there's more.
Whatever. But for now, before we get into all of that, let's just talk logistics here. Like, what year are we talking, Drew?
So yeah, let's talk about the information about the screenplay. So, Spider-Man, written by Barry Cohen, Ted Newson, and James Cameron. And the date of this draft that we have is July 29th, 1993. It's the second revision, and it runs at 128 pages.
It's a long one. It took
Oh, yeah.
Long script.
128. Oh, yeah. It was a journey.
So that's 2 hours and 8 minutes of runtime if it were to be made into a film.
I'd say that's how long it took me to read it, too. About 2 hours.
Yeah, seriously, yep.
Wow, okay.
Mostly because I had to keep stopping.
True.
But
And just breathe and be like, what is happening?
Yeah. You guys want to get into your section, Matt?
yeah, cool. So I guess before we go ahead and tell you guys like the major plot points and who all these characters are in this script, I want to tell you guys about why this movie wasn't made, okay? So before we even have James Cameron involved, I want to go back all the way to 1985. This is when the first movement on a Spider-Man movie began, okay? Canon Films, some notoriously shocking like B-movie studio was making boatloads of Chuck Norris films in 1985 or whatever.
Yes.
But they somehow got the rights to Spider-Man from Marvel. They bought it for $225,000 plus a cut of the movie's final box office rights or revenues, right?
Dude, 1 second. Imagine Chuck Norris as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
New
punching
York,
everyone with his chin.
New York would never be as safe as it could have been with Chuck Norris. I mean, my gosh,
my God.
crime would be, there would be no crime. Are you kidding me?
People would be fleeing New York.
There'd be no need for a suit, a mask.
No.
What are you looking at, Doc? He shoots him.
Yeah.
That's it. That basically would be it.
Spider-Man just wielding like a machine gun, essentially.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris. All right, yeah, feel free to stop me too at any time as I go through this. But so we're in 1985, right? And this small Chuck Norris fueled studio is supposed to make a Spider-Man movie, right?
Yeah.
And they announced that it's going to start being in production in 1988, right?
Oof.
And this version that they were developing, though, it's very, very different than something we're all familiar with. And let me tell you why. It's because the two guys that ran this Canon studio, their names are Golan and Globus. And does that sound American to you? Because it doesn't sound American to me. And
Pretty
they're not
sweet
American.
names.
They had no idea who Spider-Man even was. They had never heard of the comic. And the movie they had planned to make was like this B-movie version style where Spidey was a mutant, tarantula-like monster with 8 arms. Yeah, let me read that again for you. He was a mutant, tarantula-like monster with 8 arms.
Dude, that sounds freaking awesome.
This is a sci-fi original. That's what I got.
That is sci-fi original.
Yeah,
You're
it
right.
sounds like he should be fighting Godzilla, like the size of a skyscraper.
And plus, so you said this is late 80s, right?
This is in 1988. This was supposed to be starting to be filmed.
So I just want to... I'm trying to imagine what special effects for Spider-Man movie would look like.
Well, they never even got that far because Stan Lee heard about this and he was pissed.
He was like, yeah, exactly.
He was so pissed, and they shut it down immediately.
Good.
Stanley,
Thank God.
but yeah, hell yeah, shut it down.
Just so everyone knows, too, in that script, though, the Lizard Man was supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah, okay.
The Lizard.
Yep.
And they did make props for the movie. They got like that far a little bit, kind of like Halo. Remember when we were out in Halo back in the day?
Yeah.
But so the movie got shut down, and they had these props. They used those props in the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So,
I like those movies.
Let's move forward now to like 1990, okay? And this is when James Cameron gets involved. James Cameron owned a studio called Carolco Pictures. This studio is behind movies like Terminator 2, Rambo 2, Total Recall. They made pretty good movies in the 80s and 90s, okay?
Yeah.
But later in the 90s, they went bankrupt, just like a bunch of other idiot small studios that were just taking on projects way over their heads back in this time. I mean, it was like a common thing. I saw it a lot when I was doing my research, but I didn't really want to get into it, so I didn't, okay? They bought the rights. James Cameron's company bought the rights to Spider-Man for $5 million.
Okay.
Pretty cheap.
The initial screenplay draft that Cameron and his company had is the one we read, where, as we'll tell you, Spider-Man battles Doc Ock.
Yes.
Okay. Guess who was rumored to play Doc Ock?
I already know. You told me. Brian, you guess.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Wow, I'm Dr. Octavius. I have 6 arms. Wow.
I mean, Schwarzenegger was affiliated with Cameron. He was in Terminator, True Lies.
A lot of movies.
So a lot of movies with James Cameron. But I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love action movies that have Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Arnold Schwarzenegger as a scientist,
a physicist,
just does not work.
So the smartest man, one of the smartest people on planet Earth.
That would not be taken seriously at all.
I've made the breakthrough. I will win the Nobel Prize.
I mean, we saw
cyclotron, bro.
We saw Schwarzenegger later on as a villain in Batman as Mr. Freeze, and that didn't really pan out too well.
No, that movie flopped.
No way.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, Schwarzenegger, hilarious.
But as we told you guys already that are listening, this rendition of this script where Spider-Man battles Doc Ock, it's not very good. We read it. We're telling you now. We enjoyed it, I guess, a little bit because it's Spider-Man, but it's not that good.
I really had to like power my way through it.
So I found out that Cameron ended up editing the script, and he cut Doc Ock out of it. he put Electro and Sandman as the bad guys.
Okay.
Electro was pretty much the same as like you see in, what is it, Andrew Garfield's version?
Number 2.
Yeah, he can like
Number
control
2.
electrical currents. He can manipulate electricity.
Yeah.
But in this version, he's like an 80s era like Donald Trump figure where he's like a billionaire, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't really find out much about the Sandman, but just one more thing on Electro. He can't like touch human beings, I guess, without killing them. Like that was like the whole premise of his bad guy stuff. I mean, I don't know. To me, even that sounds kind of dumb as the bad guy, because I didn't like Electro as a bad guy with Andrew Garfield at all. Did you guys?
No.
No way.
It kind of sucked.
He's too powerful, dude.
But just some other actors here. So Michael Biehn, who you might have known from Terminator or Aliens, like we know who he is. So if you've seen Terminator, he's the guy that gets sent back
Kyle
in time.
Reese.
Yeah, Kyle Reese, right?
Yeah.
He was rumored to play Spider-Man, and makes sense because James Cameron loves using his guys, just like Arnie.
Yeah.
Leonardo,
He would have been an older Spider-Man then.
Leonardo DiCaprio was rumored to play Spider-Man.
Okay.
Probably the more likely of the two.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely the more likely, kind of like a kid. There's actually some poster work, some artwork you can look up that has a picture, like a hand-drawn picture of it looks just like Leo.
Okay.
And it's like a poster for James Cameron's Spider-Man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Damn, that's not pretty cool.
Like I said, Arnold was in line for Doc Ock.
Ugh.
Let's see. All right, so now that we know Cameron had, like, I guess everything he wanted to make this happen.
He had a core, yeah.
He had a core here. He had the people in mind. He wanted to be in the picture. He had a script going. He had multiple edits of the script. Let's find out why this movie wasn't made. Okay, so basically what happened is a bunch of legal bullshit went down, and Cameron's company went bankrupt.
Wow.
So as they were struggling to get certain creative control rights in process, their company just ran out of money because they were taking on other projects that they totally underestimated. So they had to sell the rights. So MGM ended up having the rights. But then there was another huge court battle with Marvel with MGM, and it was so boring trying to read about it, so I didn't really read about it. But
That's okay.
Marvel won, and then Marvel sold the rights to Sony. And then
Sony.
Sony and Sam Raimi paired up to make the 2002 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Nice.
All,
Wow, that's crazy.
that you either love or you hate.
Yeah, perfect. Full circle. And that's what started the onslaught of all these superhero films.
Wow. That's a crazy backstory, man. You did say you're about to blow my mind.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked all that up, I was pretty mind blown. It is pretty crazy.
You know, I mean,
That is pretty awesome, dude.
if you were around, like if you, late 1980s, if you found out they were coming out with a Spider-Man film or rumors that they were making a Spider-Man film, you were probably so excited. And waiting until 2002 was probably excruciating. So I'm glad that none of us knew about that at all whatsoever.
True. Which passes and all. Like, I think that movie holds till today. Like CGI, everything. I think they.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
I like the movie. I think it's fine. Some people say it's corny. I don't care. I think it's fine. But like, I constantly was thinking when I read this script, and we'll talk about this probably later too, is how the hell would they have made it with technology back then in 1993, 1994? Because there is just so much shit going down in this movie where it's just like,
Right.
you need millions and millions of dollars and hundreds of nerds on computers building images to make it happen and look like, you know, or else you're just not going to buy it. It's going to look too corny. It's going to look like a model.
And you're saying it's the same like company that made Terminator, and I think about the scene where Arnold's
Terminator
like,
2.
face, and he's got to like refix his face. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Terminator 2 is like, you know, there's better effects than Terminator 1, you could argue.
All right, cool. Thanks, Matt. Now that we got the backstory laid out, let's talk about the screenplay. So now that it's been some time after we've all read the screenplay, I'm still struggling to understand how James Cameron was affiliated with this script because, I don't know who Barry Cohen or Ted Newson are, but James Cameron is an amazing filmmaker and a really good writer. And this screenplay it just reads like it was written by an amateur. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. Like even like the date, this is kind of like his like prime time. You know, he pumped out better movies years before and after. And then you had a script that's just kind of dropped in the middle. It's just like, what? It's so different.
Right.
But I totally agree. Yeah, it's dialogue and just like seeing like descriptions and all that. It was just weak. I felt weak and it lacked.
I mean, especially if his production company was involved with this and making this production,
I felt like he would have been all over this and been like, hey, guys, like, what are you doing? This is garbage.
Yeah, you're fired. You're fired. I mean, I asked you earlier today, Drew. I said, like, were we duped? Did we just read something that some asshole,
That's
like
true.
some dumb fan wrote himself? Because constantly, like you guys were saying, amateur. That's something we kept bringing up. And I mean, at this point, this is episode 16. At this point, I think I've read over at least 16 screenplays now. This is the worst one I've ever read.
Yeah, seriously.
It's the worst one I've ever read. And I was the one saying, we need to do this, guys. We need to cover this. It's going to be so good. And it was good, and we'll get through the plot. Like, some of the plot points, I guess, were a little bit interesting, but...
Right. Overall, though, yeah, as a story, it was just... I thought it was just a mess.
And maybe it's just because this was the first draft, and it was just the quick write-through, and they did it so quickly.
I thought I had 3 reiterations.
Exactly, yeah. Like, as I was saying earlier, they cut out Doc Ock. They changed all these things. So maybe this was just the one draft that, Barry, whatever his name was, wrote on the porta potty at the, Texas State Fair with his family. Like, who knows? Okay, we don't know.
So now what we're going to do, we've identified some milestones of the script. And what we're going to do is chronologically go through them and just discuss these main plot points, really, right? Is that essentially what we're going to do?
Yeah, quickly, too. I just wanted to say, Peter, he's in college in this script.
Yep.
Okay,
he's in college. He does not have any powers. He is a senior in college, so he's 22 years old, something like that.
Yes. Did you guys like Peter?
Full-blown nerd.
To expand on that, like, did I like Peter? No, I did not like Peter. I mean, you start off with a screenplay and you get the typical Peter Parker elements. He's a nerd. He's very smart, very intelligent, and he's terrible around women.
Yes, he is.
And so, as I'm reading through, I'm like, okay, check. This checks out like Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But then it just is. It's not even like I just hated the dialogue. I hated what the writers were making him say. Like, it just didn't add up.
No, I agree.
He's kind of way like portrayed himself.
Yeah, the dialogue was not very good. So yeah, and like within the first couple scenes, we open in a classroom. Doc Ock is doing some sort of experiment with his assistant or whoever. We don't know if he's a student. We don't know how old this guy is. His name is Wiener.
Yes, can you say that again?
Wiener or Wiener? I literally kept every time I read it. I was like, is it Wiener or Wiener?
We're going with Wiener.
Yeah, Brian. If you look up the dictionary of the spelling of this character's name, it'll tell you that it's a slang for the term penis. Okay, Wiener, Weiner, Wiener.
Yeah.
And he's the assistant to Doc Ock. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger's assistant in James Cameron's mind.
Yes. And Doc Ock is a professor. And he's teaching a physics class for all of these seniors in college. So that would be Peter, Harry Osborn, Liz, who that's like Peter's love interest, like essentially the Mary Jane type character.
Yeah, Liz is MJ for sure.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Flash, who, if you know the
Flash
Spider-Man
Thompson.
lore,
Yep.
he's like the kind of like a bully kind of guy, athletic dude.
Yep.
And then there's Kim, who's another female character. She just seems very typical, attractive.
Apparently she's more attractive than Liz.
Yeah.
Liz/MJ.
Yeah, has a salamander. That was goofy. That was a goofy detail.
She's a goofy character in itself, but
yeah.
I mean, right from the get-go too, I question how much I like Peter because he's interested in Liz, but from the screenplay, we know that Kim is much better looking than Liz. So come on,
single.
And single, yeah.
Well, he likes Liz because they share an intellectual level.
Yeah.
Kim's got a salamander, and she's better looking. Come on. But he is Spider-Man now, not Salamander Man.
So now that all of these characters have been established for us early on in the script, you're coasting through this, and I would say within the first 5 pages, you run into a moment where you reread it, and you're just like, wait a minute, did I really just read that? How is this occurring right now? So what happens is Doc Ock, he's demonstrating to his class and showcasing his most recent scientific breakthrough experiment, which he calls the anti-force, which apparently is capable of undoing any natural force at which it is aimed. So if you were to use this anti-force and pair it with gravity, things would just be floating, right? Is that how you grasped it, essentially?
Yeah, I forgot what exactly page, but he explains it and completely nerds out. And it's just like, geez, this is so elaborate. But like you said, it's just some gravity thing. New dimension, I remember he wants to open. And he's doing this all on campus. Yeah,
he's doing this on campus. I mean, as soon as we meet him, he seems like he's just so off kilter. And he does this experiment, and he causes an explosion and a fire in the classroom.
No, there was a fire before the experiment.
Huh?
Remember, he was in his lab, and then the fire starts. And then they put out the fire, and then he does an experiment that like causes more disruption.
Yeah, I mean, basically it was he causes a fire, an explosion that puts people in danger. Liz almost dies.
Yeah, lots of danger, so much danger.
And then his superiors are just like, continue on.
I'm sorry, I was laughing, but he comes back. Doc Ock comes back into class and starts lecturing like.
Brian, could you imagine that? Could you imagine a fire taking place in your lecture hall? And then you putting out the fire, your teacher saying, "Good job. Now sit the fuck down and take some notes." Like, what?
Like, dude, this guy should be arrested. I mean, definitely fired.
Fired.
Like, even arrested for putting people in danger for his reckless experimentation.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is going on?
I love how the fire department never showed up either.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
It's like, nah, it's cool. Peter Parker's got it, and he's not even Spider-Man yet.
Yeah, used a fire extinguisher. It's okay.
I just want to say at this point, too, like, I was just like, cartoon. In my mind, I was like, this is a cartoon. This is not real.
It read very cartoony.
Like, these characters, the way these events are taking place, it just wasn't real. But we'll continue to show examples of that.
So now we're going to fast forward a little bit. I mean, this screenplay, I mean, did you guys read it like this took place within like a couple days?
That's how
I read it. It was just a continuation of events, really.
And from what we found, too, it's like October. Well. It's like the end of October, because on one day they said it was Halloween.
Right. So let's just say, I mean, this is probably later that night after the explosion occurs in the classroom. Ock is still experimenting with this thing he's trying to do, right?
Anti-Force.
Yes. And he brings it to like another level, and another explosion occurs in his domain.
I just want to bring this up too. Like in the screenplay, they kept saying like, "Oh, like Doc Ock, his work, he's onto a Nobel Prize." Like they never even gave us an explanation of what this anti-force could be used for like the greater human good.
I know.
Like what was his goal? We don't even know.
Dude, he just wanted to show off for his students.
I'm up here laughing because before the final explosion of when he's at the nighttime, his other workers come in and tell him to stop.
Right.
They're like taking it away from him, and he's like, "Come on, wait till morning." And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like another 6 hours. It's just like
I forgot about that. You're right, because they were threatening to lock up his lab so he couldn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And he's like, "Yeah, just come on till the morning," and that's when the explosion happens again. So 3 explosions, I think, has happened so far.
So this explosion happens, and whatever he was doing, the science was weird. It did not make any sense. But this is how Doc Ock turns into the octopus-like villain that we all know. And this was actually kind of cool. The description that they had in there, I thought was actually really nice.
Right, yeah. His anti-force experiments like reversed gravity, so the whole room became like weightless essentially. So things were just floating around and shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
But then like as I think you're about to describe,
Yep.
It became like an abstract painting in a way.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read the passage so you guys can get an understanding of what it was like. So it was described as a scene out of Dali's surrealistic canvas. There are things inside of other things. Dials look like Dali watches. This place has been ripped to the max. Ock lays face up, unconscious on the floor. A Waldo, which were like those like
his
hand,
arms.
Yeah, like hand thingies.
Yeah,
you know?
why did they call him Waldos?
I don't remember.
His metal arms were Waldos.
I don't know.
Yeah, Waldo's, that's what it was.
Octopus arms. Just call them arms.
The arms. So his octopus arms were across his chest. The camera slowly goes down to see Ock. Pipes and wires are stuck to his body. The octopus arms seem to be wrapping him. He wakes up to see those mechanical arms buried in his body. They weave around him as if they are looking for prey. He tries to tear them out, but they seem to be part of his body, like his other limbs. Like, dude, like that is a badass description right there.
It's some interdimensional shit. It's matter fusing together, essentially.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
I'd also point out the fact the abundance of times Ock says okie dokie.
Oh, you're right. That was goofy.
Yeah,
oh my god.
That's just another bad dialogue thing. I mean, we could have brought it up earlier. I thought of it and I didn't want to because it's so cringeworthy.
That's okay. That's all right.
It was excessive. After every line, you say it.
It was pretty bad. And then we got the next important plot point. So this is the same exact moment once Doc Ock is changing into the villain. A lot of people have gathered around the school from this explosion, like police, firefighters, the media, J. Jonah Jameson, for example, and Peter's there as well. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, hey, Peter, go inside, give me some photos, kid.
He's like, hey, you go to school here, like, I'll give you $100 if you can go in there and get me 2 photos, 3 photos.
I thought this part was hilarious.
And then, Peter answers. He's just like, $100. Like, okay, Mr. Jameson. Like, I'll go in there. He's like, all right, kid, $80. Like, you got it, kid. Like, you give me some photos, $80. And then Peter takes off running. And then, like, Liz and Harry Osborn, they're like, hey, like, excuse me, like, where'd Peter go? And then Jonah Jameson's like, oh, he's on his way to go make $60.
He just kept lowballing him. It was hilarious.
The price just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And then, if you want to take this, Drew, Peter, or I'll just talk about it.
You go ahead.
Peter goes inside the laboratory where Doc Ock's experiment and explosion had just happened, right? And he's like sneaking his way through. There was a cool part, actually. I liked this in the script.
Yeah.
He like took a newspaper and used it to like latch the door open. I thought that was cool, smart.
Right.
Something that Peter Parker, the nerd, would think of to do. Yeah. But he ends up taking the pictures of like this surreal setting where objects are combined with other objects, and he does get a visual of Doc. There's like paramedics taking him out with like the other professors at the university and stuff.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening while Peters is in there is the spider that was radioactively or somehow afflicted by this experiment.
Yeah.
Doc Ock's experiment. It became radioactive. It bites Peter.
Yep. And that's how he becomes Spider-Man, of course, as we all know.
He instantaneously gets his powers.
Yes, he does.
Instant, He's like walking around.
Right. So, well, I think it was like, I want to say from like what the screenplay gave me, it was like a 3-minute period where he was like woozy, couldn't see, and during that time period, he runs into Jonah Jameson, gives him his camera with all the cool pictures he just took. Yeah. But then after that, he like snaps back into being normal or a superhuman rather. He's a superhuman now. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wades away from the group, and then this is when he discovers that he can like climb up walls and jump from building to building.
It's kind of like the scene in the 2002 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. It's kind of like that when he finds out like what he can do, jump from building to building, things like that.
Yeah. And while he's jumping from building to building, a man named Rice, I believe is how you pronounce it. Yeah. He's a talent agent, we come to learn.
So stupid. And was this in the comic? I mean, I kind of want to look this up.
Because I have no idea.
I feel like it probably is, but I don't know.
I can't tell you.
Whatever, keep going.
So this guy, he's a talent agent, and he just sees Peter jumping from building to building, and Peter... Yeah, Peter just like ends up by this guy, because Rice is like tracking him down. And once he finally gets him on like the sidewalk, he's like, "Hey man, like you got a lot of talent. Here's my card." So he gives Peter his card, and like Peter's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this." So then the next day, Rice and Peter meet up, and he brings him to the
MTV Slammies.
Yeah, the
wrestling competition.
Yeah, yes. And this is when Rice is like, "Hey, I got something for you," and he just takes out a briefcase, and it's the Spider-Man suit.
The legit suit, and you just here you go, kid. You're Spider-Man now.
Just made it in like a day, no big deal.
It started exciting me because I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna get like Bone Stars ready,"
That's right.
I genuinely, like the wrestling one.
He didn't fight Bone Star though. He fights the Crusher.
And that's what's crazy, because the story that Matt had told for us earlier is this is one of the items that survived from an early draft up until the 2002 film, which is crazy.
Because each time that the rights to Spider-Man kept changing between all these companies, all the drafts of all the scripts went with the idea. Yeah. And that's how the certain plot points stuck around.
Yes.
Okay.
So now Peter is in the Spider-Man suit, and he's at this wrestling match, and he has to fight a guy called the Crusher, who's just this humongous wrestler.
The champ. He's Bonesaw. He's the champ.
Yeah.
And no one is supposed to beat him.
Right. And this Rice guy, he apparently tells the announcer like, "Hey, this is his name" when you announce him. And they did some like silly joke where it's like, "And now here comes Superman." And it's like, really, Superman? You that's the joke you got for us?
Yeah. Well, then someone tells the announcer like, "No, you botched it," and he goes, "Oh, excuse me, it's Spider-Man."
Right. So yeah, Spider-Man fights Crusher. He wins, and at the end, Spider-Man tells Crusher, "Oh yeah, I'm just Peter Parker." And by the way, Rice knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man as well. So there's two people that know Peter Parker are Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
Yep.
I remember reading that and I was like, wait a minute. His wrestling name is Spider-Man. Also his superhero name is Spider-Man. They know that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just
Jeez.
Again,
aggravating.
Another thing where it's just like, where I didn't really like Peter, because it's just like Peter Parker would never do that. He's too smart.
Right.
He would never do that. Just bad writing.
So true.
Let's get back to Doc Ock. At this point, he's full-on evil mastermind supervillain, and he's been fused with his mechanical arms. He's on the loose. They had him in a hospital, but he broke out. He killed the school administrator. For some reason, no one decides to look in his office or his lab where he had been doing all his work prior, because he's just like held up there the entire screenplay, continuing his work. The cops never decide to search his old lab.
Yeah.
Genius. But I guess in order to fulfill his dreams of destroying the universe now with his antimatter, like machine or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Anti-gravity.
It was anti-something.
Anti-force.
With his anti-force machine. He thinks that he can, like, ripple universes together and, like, destroy the universe to create a better one.
It made no sense.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was really hard to try to, like, figure out what the hell the writers were trying to convey to us for that.
Yeah.
His motives for trying to blow up the universe, I don't really know. But in order to do it, he needs Peter Parker's paper, which had calculations on a rare planetary alignment that was occurring, I guess, within the next few days in this script.
Right.
So I guess all the planets were going to align, and it would give Doc Ock more power for his machine to destroy the universe, right? Makes sense. Everyone follow that?
It's possible.
So Doc Ock wants Peter's paper.
The end is near at this point.
So he sends his henchman Wiener, right? Let me say that again. Let's come. We're coming all the way back to Wiener here.
Here we go.
He sends Wiener to go steal the papers. Wiener, go get those papers for me.
He requested like 3 times, and he says like, "Oh, I forgot this time. Didn't do it this time." And it's just like
He seemed like Igor to me.
He kind of like a hunchback.
Yeah, that's what he seemed like to me.
Yeah, deformed for sure. But anyways, in order to steal Peter's work so that Doc Ock could blow up the universe, Wiener breaks into Uncle Ben and Aunt May's home, and he kills Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Wiener then gets trapped in a warehouse, really similar to the 2002 Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, where he has that standoff with the guy with the frosted tips.
Yep.
Yeah. And in that scene,
frosted tips, right?
In the screenplay we just read, in that scene, Wiener gets caught by the cops.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
just gets arrested.
Peter gets away, but Uncle Ben does die.
Yeah.
And he never says that with great power comes great responsibility.
That's true.
Never was in the script.
Yeah, dude, the 2002, I mean, it's such a more effective film, especially with that particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so just moving forward, like we just said, Uncle Ben is now dead, and Doc Ock needs Peter's data, or his calculations or whatever, to make his mass destruction machine work, whatever.
Yeah.
Wiener failed to get the data and got caught by the cops, but somehow gets free later on, which wasn't explained at all, but we're not going to get into that. But while Doc Ock now knows that he needs Peter's stuff, Peter is at his apartment working on some things. And this is when I think we first get the web description of him like shooting webs or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but yada, 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 a few pages go on, Doc Ock breaks into Peter's apartment and is able to steal those calculations.
Right.
Yeah,
it was kind of dull.
I mean,
Very dull.
Everything just didn't really flow together.
No. And he said okie dokie like 5 times.
Yep. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, Peter, I got your paper. Time to blow up the world. Okie dokie.
Yeah, so he gains paper, so he has the key for him to blow up the world now.
Yeah, but he still needs one more thing, right? Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, he still needs one more thing. Most definitely. He needs like more plutonium fuel power.
Yeah,
that's
how can you end the world without
coworker.
Plutonium? If you're gonna blow up the world, you gotta have some plutonium.
Yeah, like Peter wants to talk to his coworker, and like somehow he knew exactly what he needed. I mean, he was a scientist as well, but so he tells him, yeah, he needs like the plutonium fuel power. And where do you go? Where do you go to get a bunch of toxic waste dump? How about New Jersey? Apparently, they have the largest toxic waste dump in the world.
That's an explicit line of dialogue. Peter goes, "Oh yeah, didn't you know that New Jersey has the largest toxic waste dump in the world?" It's like, what?
That can't be true.
It doesn't make any sense. And then he takes everyone and his friends, and they basically road trip there
Yeah.
to like New Jersey to like go stop Doc Ock. It's just like, why are you bringing everyone with you? Just like
Squad. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of times in the script where Peter just like jumps into someone's car. It's like, dude, just like swing from building to building.
Seriously. Like, it's way faster. Like, there are times where it said, like, can you step on it? And he's like, we're in traffic. It's like, dude, you're freaking Spider-Man. Get out.
That is so true. But of course, like, Doc is there as the facility.
Yeah, well, Peter finds him with his spider sense. That like they kind of throw that in there. He's able to pinpoint where Doc Ock is at
long range spider sense.
What is it? It's a toxic waste dump with plutonium. He finds them with a spider sense. Mm-hmm. But Doc Ock gets his plutonium. Long story short, from that little New Jersey trip they all made, little field trip.
He gets the plutonium, yeah. I think he just, like, finds it, too. It was just, like, in a barrel and it had a label. Like,
they said it was in a shack, actually. It was in a shack.
He actually was holding a paper, and there was like, a dotted line, and then it led to an X.
Yeah.
And that's how he found
the treasure map.
So now outside with an arrow, plutonium here.
I don't know, man. I mean, do you guys want to go to New Jersey and get some plutonium? That's all I can get from this.
You know, I mean, that's all freaking Doc from Back to the Future. He needed plutonium to get that DeLorean going.
Yeah,
true. He just went to New Jersey. So now that Doc Ock has this plutonium, he travels back to the school.
Oh, and he's ready to blow up the universe.
Yes, he travels back to the school.
Ready. It's time. Tick down.
Everybody road trips back to New York, and this is when they give you like some countdown. It's like there's like 10 minutes left or something ridiculous, right?
For the planets to align, to give him maximum power, along with the plutonium, to blow up the universe.
And everything seems to be going Ock's way. The planets align themselves. Ock's powers they grow significantly. I was getting really confused at this point.
It was weird.
And then all of a sudden, the Science Center building just detaches itself from Earth and rises in the sky and then begins to float around the city.
Yeah, because his machine's at full throttle, it reverses gravity, and the whole building, as Drew just said, is flying through the fucking air.
Yeah.
How the hell were they going to...
Another backup argument when you were saying at the beginning, it's like, how are we going to fund this? How are we going to create this?
No idea how you film a giant lecture hall flying through the air. I don't know how you're going to fucking do that.
And up there, Spider-Man and Ock have a battle, of course. Liz is actually up there because before the building goes up into the air, she's looking for Peter.
For a solid 5 minutes, she's just wandering around in a flying building, saying, "Peter, where are you?"
She's
Peter?
checking every room, looking for him.
That dragged big time.
And then the climax of this whole floating building is Ock. Like, what was your interpretation? To me, it was like he just turned into a really bright light, like a disco ball, and then disappeared into another dimension.
Well, his plan worked. So all these planets aligning, all his plutonium, all his power, whatever the hell he did, it worked. And it somehow created a black hole to another universe, and it was like this huge white light, and he just disintegrated or got sucked in. Because Peter unplugged his shit before it could get big enough to suck in the whole Earth, or something, and it was just him, and he just disappeared.
He disappeared, and then so that means the science building was just plummeting down to Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared.
Exactly. Thank you for throwing that in there.
nice one, Jared.
Yeah. So now you're like, okay, how the hell are Liz and Peter going to get out of this? Because Spider-Man Peter takes off his costume, or whatever, his suit, and is like, Liz, I'm over here. And then I got really confused. Do you guys remember how they escaped?
Yes. So Peter takes an American flag.
Okay, that's right.
And somehow arranges it into a parachute.
Love the country.
And they jump off the side of the building as it's plummeting down into New York City, landing on God knows what, destroying who knows how
I
much.
hate that.
Killing,
I hate that.
killing countless people.
That's what I wanted to know.
And Peter and Liz are just floating down on the American flag and making out, just swapping saliva.
And
Roll the credits. Roll the credits.
yeah, that's pretty much how it ends.
Roll credits, dude.
Ugh.
I think they had like an America, fuck yeah. Background.
Yeah, I mean, they basically should just wrote, "Hey, fuck you," like for reading this. Fuck you. That's what they. I wish that's what they would have had, like, because that's how I felt when I was done with this script.
Yeah, seriously. Oh man.
I was so glad. So glad to hit page 128, and it finally said the end.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult.
Bittersweet.
Closing thoughts, guys.
I mean, let's just talk about Spider-Man in general again,
Sure.
because like, this is such a bad image and like reflection of Spider-Man. This script
Dude,
sucks,
I
you
know.
know. And there's a reason why they, James Cameron was like, no, this isn't good enough, and he tried to move it forward, like we said with those other bad guys, the other villains.
Yes.
But I mean, gosh, like what a frustrating 2 hours of my life to read this.
It was
Just
pretty.
because the expectations were so high, and Spider-Man is, like we said, he's awesome. So
It was pulling teeth.
yeah.
Brian.
Dude, I mean, I don't really have much to say myself. Like, man, you hit it pretty nail on the head, you know? I was amped up. I was too excited. I literally was telling my roommates, like, dude, I'm about to read Spider-Man, we're a bunch of fans. And they're like, oh, fuck yeah. And now it's just like, ugh. It hurts. Love Spider-Man, but it's just like the story and all this just get lost. It's just wasn't the best screenplay that I've read.
Let me ask you this, like, do you guys think you could sit down and write a better Spider-Man story than this? Because I genuinely think I could come up with something better than this.
I mean,
You just hope.
maybe that's tough. Like, Spider-Man's a really tough thing to write, I feel. You really got to know the lore. Anyways, yeah, I agree with everything that you guys have been saying. This was a hard screenplay to read, for sure, because we were all excited about it before we even started reading it. I guess, if anything, this gives me some hope, because I just find it really difficult to understand how the screenplay was even getting considered by studios, as far as just the writing style. So that gives me hope with, my own stuff and our own stuff that we want to create ourselves. But another positive that I have with this screenplay, by just how bad it is that at least this got the ball rolling for a Spider-Man film to get made in the future.
That is true.
Specifically that 2002
I do that all
version.
day.
So
This got the ball rolling for all of superhero movies that exists now.
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. For Marvel specifically, I mean, because they did make the Batman, like we don't need to talk about that.
Right, but no, I mean, it's like you just said, it was all started because of this. Like, 2002 Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire was the big domino that pushed off all of these superhero movies coming out, right? And that started with this script. Like,
Yeah.
it all started here with this piece of shit.
Right.
What if there was some other rando and his name just happened to be James Cameron?
That'd be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Or it's just like James Cameron.
Also, even contemporary, like we said earlier, what is it called? Into the Spider-Verse, right? Mm-hmm. Which is supposed to be a great film.
Yeah.
Animated film that's just won an Oscar.
So Spider-Man is a powerhouse. With that, you got the PS2. I'm sorry, PS2. The PS4 video game, which is amazing.
Which the second one's already coming out.
Awesome! I am so excited.
It's already
going to
be coming out soon.
And then with Tom Holland Spider-Man, we got number 2 coming out pretty soon, which I believe has Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain. So
Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
and if you didn't know too, the plot is it takes place in Europe.
Yeah, that's right.
They're like abroad.
Yep.
You said Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, he's going to be the villain. I'm pretty sure.
Mysterio.
Mysterio.
Who is
Yeah.
it? Is it?
Mysterio.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff coming for the future.
He kind of
for
looks like
Spider-Man.
Megamind, Mysterio.
Yeah, he does kind of with that Buzz
Yeah.
Lightyear type.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whoosh.
Kind of goofy.
Got a big head.
We'll see how it turns out.
So a lot on the horizon.
Well, cool. If you guys feel good, then I guess as Doc Ock would say in the screenplay we just read, okie dokie. That's the episode.
I hate that.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Okie dokie.
No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, if you have any recommendations of screenplays we should read, movies we should watch, or really anything, let us know on any of our platforms. We're always looking for other things to check out. On the next episode, we'll be talking about the pilot script for the Netflix original series, Stranger Things. Thank you for listening. We hope you can join us next time.